Yes, we've emailed a number of times.
Yes, and we have tweeted the DM tweeting a bunch.
Yes,
so,
which is good. Yes. And I think you sent me some nice books, and I sent your kids a bunch of Transformer stuff.
They played with that quite a bit.
Good. And as kids go until 3 weeks later when something else came along, and then
Well, now they're all. My kids are slowly turning into teenagers, which is different. Yeah.
So what is it all then? Just games and the internet?
So now my kids are all like, it's the younger one, it's still Unspeakable.
Okay.
The middle one, it's Mr. Beast, and the older one, it's Halo and
that makes sense.
The normal stuff.
Nice, that makes sense.
So by the way, hi.
Oh, we were started great. Love that.
We're gonna start. This is 5 favorites. Me, Brandon, obviously. I also have special guest Will Friedle.
Hello.
Will is a superstar of many things.
If only that were true.
Most of my fans will probably know you from Critical Role.
Okay.
Because, that's how they are.
Fair enough. Hey, I love it. Are you kidding?
Or, Boy Meets World, various awesome voice roles. A few years back, Will sent my kids a bunch of Transformers swag because he was playing Bumblebee in voice acting and things like that.
It was such a good trade, though, because I got my leather-bound Mistborn signed for you. So right on the shelf of honor, so it's good to go. We're good. It was a fair trade.
My kids love that stuff. They were Transformers. You sent a Bumblebee costume because it was Halloween time.
Sure.
And the littlest one was Bumblebee 3 years in a row.
I love that.
Oh,
I love that. That's awesome. I love to hear that.
Our 5 favorites today, we're going to be talking about television shows. Which is not surprising considering who I am talking to. So I just have a list of your favorite shows. These aren't in any order. These are just 5 favorite things. In fact, there might be other favorites that are left off this list.
That's true.
We're both in the business. Every time I get asked to list like favorite books, I'm like, all right, who of my friends has a book out recently?
Exactly.
Who, if I don't mention, is going to, So.
I get that. I totally get that, Which is why you've never mentioned my novels. I'm kidding. I've never written a novel, nor would I ever attempt to try that. So.
Well, why not?
No.
Not your thing.
I started writing screenplays when I was younger.
Cool.
As far as I know, I'm still the youngest freelance screenwriter in the history of Disney. I sold them or wrote the Winnie the Pooh movie when I was 19. For Disney, and then I gave it up writing for a long time, and then I wrote for most of the animated series I was on. So I wrote for Transformers and Thundercats and Teen Titans Go, and then I wrote for Girl Meets World. Prose is a whole different thing than screen.
I have done 2 screenplays.
Have you?
Yes. The first one was terrible.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, as one might expect. My second one's okay.
Okay.
I'm mostly doing it because I'm now a producer on a bunch of TV shows, right? I'm a producer on the Wheel of Time show and things like that.
Nice.
Most of my duty on those is read screenplays and talk about,
Of course. Should we be worried about the Wheel of Time series?
No, we shouldn't.
We shouldn't?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. It's really
because that's a tough nut to crack because it's 8 million books long.
Yes.
So
well, and I added 3 million more.
That's what I was saying. So that's what I said to my wife. My wife's like, are you excited for Wheel of Time? I'm like, I am, but I'm hoping it's going to be 62 25-hour episodes because it's like there's so much material. That it made me nervous. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that.
I'm really pleased with season 1.
Okay, good.
We haven't dug much into season 2 yet, but season 1, there are no bad screenplays in the lot, and there's at least one 10 out of 10 for me. I would just really enjoy the process.
Is it one season, one book?
Yes.
Well,
the first season is one book.
Okay.
So we probably will need to combine for future seasons.
I would think. But Eye of the World is kind of...
Eye of the World is season 1. So I hope I'm alled to say that.
No, that's fine.
You get me in trouble.
No, that's fine. I'm just taking a breath because we're all, we're obviously we're waiting very much for that. I remember, just a very quick story, when your book came out and we were ending Wheel of Time after it was 20 some odd years. I went to the store. It opened at 10. I was there at 9:58, and I walked in and I grabbed a book and I put it down on the counter. And the woman said, "What is it with this book?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "There was a man in here who must have been 60 years old, crying as he put the book on the counter. What is the deal with this book?" And I said, "He's been waiting 20 years to finish this novel." She goes, "He said he was a lawyer. He took the week off from work." I went, "Yeah." Like, if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. But she said he cried. I said, "Yes, been waiting 20 years for this." So there's a lot riding on this show, Brandon.
Yeah.
That's all
well,
I'm saying.
hey, if it's bad, just pretend that I tried to get that part changed.
Okay, fair enough. That's what I do too. Anything bad, it was that was Ryder Strong. That
if it's really good, then it was my influence getting the.
Okay, good.
Rafe Judkins is the showrunner, and he is amazing.
Okay, great.
He's really great.
Well, the trailer looks incredible. The ensemble cast looks amazing. We can't wait.
Yeah.
As a fan, we can't wait. But there's that nervousness.
Yeah.
You got the same thing when Game of Thrones came out. All that kind. So we'll see. I think if the show ends at the ending of the show, if we can actually see the big battle and it's not just pitch black, you're already doing well.
Right. If if they don't put the siege equipment, in front of the infantry,
I think we'll be okay.
Maybe
I think we'll be all right.
Okay, throwing some shade already, are we?
I'm not. The shade was trying to watch that actual scene.
Yes, right.
That's okay. No,
there was nothing but shade.
Exactly. This is what nerds do. I'm a nerd. I have no talent in writing, so I like to rip apart other writers. That's the best thing. That's what we as nerds tend to do.
So you have a nice list of television shows here. I thought it was quite well done. First on your list was MASH.
Always first on my list.
Why?
Yeah. Why MASH? Well, I mean, MASH to me, so I was a little young to start MASH when it first came out.
Right, we're around the same age.
Yeah. I was born in 76. So,
and I'm 75.
There you go. So I think MASH started 71. And as I got a little older, I'm a television fanatic, and by that I mean I'm named after a television character. I was always going to be William after my grandfather, but I was going to be Billy. But my brother's favorite show was Lost in Space, so I'm named after Will Robinson. And then my first ever full sentence was about the Cylon Raiders from Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
So I was born to be on television. I am a television freak. It's something that I have. It's just a language that I love and am fluent in.
Well, in our generation, I feel like partially grew up on reruns. I find a lot of people from our generation, something about like Nick at Night and daytime television show and being home and kind of being a latchkey generation.
Yep.
Like we watched MASH as much as we watched anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I always talk about kids these days being spoiled about the children's programming being so much better than it was. Like it really started in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And like they were finding their way. There's of course some good stuff, but a lot of the children's programming when I was watching in the 80s, I'm like, oh, come on. I can tell they're reusing the same animation 17 times an episode.
So you are obviously a Mask and G.I. Joe fan. Exactly.
I remember, it's not on my list, but I remember when I saw Robotech for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, it's a continuing storyline? Wait, they aren't reusing the animation every... and I'm like, this is different. Something's wrong here. Why not?
That's how I was just briefly for animation. That's what, because I was a huge... Every generation thinks they have the best cartoons, but we had Mask, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats. But a lot of them don't hold up really well. And then 1990 came, 89, 90 came, and Batman the Animated Series came out, and it just changed the whole ballgame.
That's actually on my list. My first one is Batman the Animated Series.
It should be, because it's brilliant. It changed everything. They went from doing the animation on white paper to black paper.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which gave it that dark feel. Kevin Conroy, who will always be my Batman, came in and said, I am Batman, and changed the world. Mark Hamill's Joker is just next level.
I've mentioned one of my favorite episodes of TV of all time is the episode where the guy cuts off the Joker in traffic and Batman's barely in the episode.
It's incredible. And they would do that stuff all the time. And Andrea Romano, who was the director of that show and also directed Beyond, kind of changed the ballgame when it came to how it was actually shot or recorded, because she just liked to do it as a straight 1930s radio play. So you'd be in the room and there'd be 20 other actors in there. You weren't recording by yourself, and you just read through the script. And you'd read through the script once or twice, and you're playing off everybody, and your casting was incredible. So when we were doing, for instance, Return of the Joker, I'm sitting in between Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill for like a week and a half, and I was like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut before anybody realizes I'm not supposed to be here. I was waiting to get fired every day, because it's just watching these two brilliant men go back and forth.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, that's off on a tangent.
No, that's what this is about.
Okay, good.
Anyone who watches my channel, it's all about the tangents.
Good. I am a big fan of animation, but MASH came along, and there was something about the dry wit of Alan Alda that spoke to me, because it was not big, broad slapstick comedy. It was this kind of, and people would often talk about the two MASHes. There's MASH up to season 5. And then
there's 3 MAShes then, because there's the movie.
That's true, right? Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. For television, for the show, it a bunch of the characters leave, and then new characters come in. I love it all, but it does get far more morose kind of maudlin towards the end, and it goes far more dramatic. But there are 2 or 3 seasons of MASH that are, I would argue, seasons 2 through 5 that are pretty close to perfect television.
Well, you can't go the other way also. If you're going to go, you need to go from more comedic to more dramatic, because if you go the other way, it's
weird.
Yeah.
It's completely weird.
Yeah.
So
it actually made that ending kind of bittersweet in just the right way.
It was. And we could do a whole nother thing when you invite me back, because you and I are going to be besties, I can already tell. When you invite me back, we will do an entire thing about the last episode of MASH, because there's some people that were a huge fan.
Yeah.
I was not such a huge fan. I did not like how, spoiler alert, it's from 1982 2 or 3, so you better have seen it already. But he so changed his character at the end that it almost kind of erases there. I get what he was doing.
Okay.
I've seen the interviews where he talks about how he wanted to take something from every character before they left Korea. I get it, but man, it hurt me. It hurt my feelings. But anyway.
Let's move to something happier with another controversial ending.
MASH is number 1, though.
Also on your list is Seinfeld.
Yes. Yeah, talk about another. So Seinfeld, this is where I get crazy. So I am happily married, and my wife is a Seinfeld fanatic as well, to the point where neither of us can go to sleep without Seinfeld being on.
Really?
Also, to where if we wake up in the middle of the night, we put it back on.
Okay.
I can do it to the point where my brothers and I especially, we speak in quotes. So if somebody said to me, do this episode, I can essentially do the entire episode all the time. I've seen probably every Seinfeld episode, I'll try not to exaggerate, maybe 100 to 150 times each.
See, that's a difference between you and me, because I can't even quote my own books.
Really?
Yeah, fans come and say, hey, write that line that goes there, and I'll try to write it, and then they'll compare, and they're like, you got 3 words wrong. Because I don't do verbatim, right? Like, it's an emotion, it's an idea.
Interesting.
And so people often ask me, like, the Stormlight Archive has these, like, oaths that characters are swearing. They're like, can you tell me the oath for this order at this point?
Speak the words, Calvin.
And I'm like, I could tell you the emotion that the person is going to be having at that point, but I don't know what the actual words are, and indeed, if you ask me to write the ones I've already put in books, I might get them wrong.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do the same thing with spelling characters' names, actually. They're a sound, they're a word in my head, and I'm better at it now, but I used to like swap vowels all the time, and they'd be like, you spelled your character's name wrong. I'm like, it's a name.
You spelled Vin with a P. This isn't even close. Nice, okay, yeah, interesting. No, my brothers and I speak in quotes. I mean, that's all we do. For instance, I am a fan of the YouTube channel as well. I could sit here and do most of Kung Pao for you right now if you wanted.
Well, obviously you are an individual of very refined and excellent taste.
Thank you, thank you. That's a lot of nuts. Oh God, I can do the whole. That's how we are. I mean, that's the way my mind works. And so I have friends that will come up and they'll test me, or they'll throw out a Seinfeld thing, and I'll do the next 3 lines.
You know, I grew in college. One of my roommates was Ken Jennings, the Jeopardy
You're
trivia
kidding.
guy.
That's awesome. We're huge Jeopardy fans
too.
So,
so Ken and his brother and our good friend Earl, who are kind of really good friends and all very much quote maniacs. Like, you would get them together, and I would just sit at the side and watch them basically go through routines of entire episodes of The Simpsons.
Yeah, of course. That's the best. Well, there's actually, we do a fun thing in our house where we have a little screening room, and there's a little bathroom off of it, and we just had it painted white, and there's pens everywhere. So you just go in and you write up your favorite movie quotes.
Okay.
So the whole bathroom is just covered with people's favorite movie quotes from all over the place, which we thought is kind of neat. So we're quote people.
My number 2 is not as quotable. It's Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Are you a Star Trek person?
I am an original Star Trek person.
Oh, wow. Purist.
And not a fanatic. Although the first convention I ever went to, my brother took me to a Star Trek convention. So
you know what? My first was also a Star Trek. They were like these big productions back then that were like, you know, most cons are like fan-run, sort of, they may be disorganized.
Yeah.
And these were like official, like very well managed. They came in, they set up, you went. I liked the books back then, and so I went and bought all like these used books for 50 cents a piece.
See,
or whatever.
aren't those one of the coolest things that happened to me though was I was like 14 or 15, and I was doing a pilot for National Geographic.
Okay.
And one of the things that we had to do, they flew me to LA. I'm from Connecticut, and I was living in New York at the time. They flew me to LA, and I got to sit in the makeup chair, and it was either Mike, I think it was Mike Westmore at the time, made me up full makeup as a Romulan. top to bottom, and then put me on the deck of the Enterprise. And so I got to sit there on the set at Paramount and interview Brent Spiner, and I'm decked out in full regalia. I still have the appliances, but that was one of the cooler moments that I had in my entire career, was being made full on as a Romulan and sitting on the deck of the Enterprise. That was pretty neat.
When I was hitting my kind of formative years as a teen, when I was getting into fantasy and science fiction novels and things, the show that was on was Next Generation. And I had never gotten into the original series. My dad really liked it. I watched some episodes. I later came to appreciate it. But I really liked Next Generation, but it was when Deep Space Nine started doing continuity. See, I have a problem with television in that I really like things like Seinfeld. It's like, here's a standalone episode that's just about having jokes.
Yeah.
But what I really dislike are character retcon, or decontinuityizing. It's like when you get a character who goes through an arc and then the same arc every episode. Like, I actually really enjoy the show Rick and Morty, but it's like Rick has been through the same arc 7 times in this show, right? It's like...
what about overall arcs? Like, what do you think? We're getting into some tough territory here now. Are you a Sopranos fan?
I do like Sopranos, yes.
Do you find, though, that every season seems to be someone gets out of prison and then they've got to take care of them, and then it's the whole arc?
I mean, a show that didn't quite make my list that I really like is 24, for that same reason.
Great show, yeah.
Really great seasons, really bad full show arc, right? Where it's like, oh, we're going to do the same thing again. And when Deep Space Nine really started to do full continuity, I found epic science fiction on television in a way I hadn't before, because I missed Babylon 5 in the original run. I got into it later.
Never seen a Babylon 5 in my life. No.
And it was partially because I was going to college at the time, and getting a television, like I'm in the dorms, I don't have a TV. It's whatever people are watching out there. And so Deep Space Nine, though, that was my Star Trek.
Deep Space Nine, people loved Deep Space Nine. I mean, like, that was one of their. If you're a Star Trek fan, there's some people that are just live and die Deep Space Nine. Star Trek. I was a fan of Star Trek, but it wasn't my jam. My jam was also 80s sitcoms were big for me.
So you put 80s sitcoms on, but I see in here with the consistency, you say that all the shows that you've listed just have really sharp writing, because the next one is The West Wing, right? And just brilliant. Like, probably the best writing, best overall quality across an entire show that has ever been, at least writing wise. I mean, the acting also was excellent.
Phenomenal.
So the writing, but that, I mean, when you get in The West Wing, you're talking, at least in my opinion, about the writing. Do those 80s sitcoms like bug you? Because I go back and I watch, I'm like, the writing.
Yeah, it depends on which ones you're watching and why you're watching. So West Wing is one of those things, when I look at it from an acting standpoint, they're speaking so quickly that it's almost like it could easily come off as I'm just trying to remember my lines because I have so many and I have to speak them so fast. But the acting is so phenomenal. They're taking those lines and they're still emoting while doing it, which is, I honestly don't know how it happened. You watch Bradley Whitford and these people, they're going back and forth, and it's phenomenal.
Well, there's a similar there with my third, which is Firefly, which is...
Great show.
People don't talk like that in real life. People don't talk like The West Wing in real life. But as a writer, I kind of wish they did. Right?
Like Deadwood.
That
same kind of thing.
Yeah. You're living in a world where everyone's just a little more pithy, everyone's a little more witty, and even the dumb characters are dumb in the amusing way. And I love television like that. I love writing like that.
That's how I'm exactly the same way. But then there's certain, like Michael, like I have Family Ties on the list. So now some of the writing in Family Ties is very formulaic, very 80s sitcom. I watch it because Michael J. Fox is a genius. Especially he was so good with his timing that, and I talked to a director who had actually worked with him, you will see lines where he will pause this much in between a line, so the door he just walked into, behind him will click shut. And the click won't come over one of his lines. He's not looking at the door, but he knows what's going to happen. He's so aware of everything going on in the stage that he is throwing. So I watch for him. Between him and Alan Alda, that's the reasons I became an actor. And Gary Coleman, who I never got a chance to meet. But those were, I mean, that was kind of, so I'll watch certain things for certain reasons, as opposed to just, because again, you're right, a lot of the 80s sitcoms, they get very very formulaic, very kind of
like laugh tracks are hard for me. I went back and watched like Rocky and Bullwinkle, which I used to love as a kid, and I watched it. I still really think but the laugh track just grates on me.
It does.
Right?
It can, yeah. And what's great is a lot of the DVDs are, I still watch DVDs on that guy. You can shut them off.
Yeah. I wish I bought my brother bought the entire Muppet Show, and you couldn't turn them off.
Okay.
And it's so obvious on the Muppet Show, but I think there was one season that just didn't have any, and it was sublime.
Another great show. Yeah.
So I put on my list, actually, my number 4 is Cowboy Bebop.
Okay.
Talking about watching a show for something, for me, it's the music for that show. I am not a big anime person.
Okay.
My brother really is into it. I will watch whatever's great that he says to watch, but that was one of those shows. Again, it's got kind of an arc to it. It's beginning, middle, and end, and done. The music, I don't know. Have you watched much anime?
I have not watched much anime stuff,
Yeah.
but Steve Bloom is one of my closest friends.
Okay.
So he's on my one of my D&D buddies. He and Mary McGlynn are together. So Steve from Cowboy Bebop, I mean, we're besties. So I'll move him down when you and I are besties. But
have you watched the show?
I'm not a huge anime fan. So that's the thing. When I was really getting into animation, I went through the route. Like when you get into film and you watch Citizen Kane. So you get into animation, you watch Akira. You go through kind of these things. So I did all that kind of stuff. It just was never really my jam. And then they tried these hybrid things, like when we did our Thundercats, our reboot of Thundercats with Matt Mercer, where I met Maddie. It was a kind of a hybrid between the two, and I liked it, but I'm more the animation purist than I am the anime person.
Well, I will say Cowboy Bebop.
I hear it's phenomenal. Yeah, I heard the same thing.
It's just phenomenal, and it's a beginning, middle, and end. See, some of the TV shows, one of my problems is that not having that beginning, middle, end. You'll get these really great seasons. You'll be like, wow, I'm done. Like Alias, the first season of Alias is like this. Like, wow, I'm done. First season of Lost. Wow, this could end here, and I'm happy. But then,
should have.
Yeah, and then, well, the writer's strike and stuff like that.
It's true, but there's a couple seasons of Lost there that meandered quite a bit, and I was a big fan of Lost.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is one where he makes fun of himself when he talks about writing Lost, where he's like, I can't end anything.
Because my fifth one is actually the first season of Lost.
Your
None
fifth
of the
what?
rest. My fifth show.
Oh, okay.
My 5 favorites.
Okay, all
is
right.
the first season of Lost.
Okay, first season of Lost was
Pretending
brilliant.
that it's one show
was brilliant
by itself.
Is brilliant. Great acting, something you didn't know was going to happen. You were on the edge of your seat, and then it was kind of like, wait, now they're in the 70s? What? Yeah. And then you kind of
you can see my love of the flashback structure in the Stormlight Archive. The old Highlander TV show, if you ever watched that, did this, where it's like, we're going to use a parallel flashback to the past for this character to inform their modern day actions in an episode. And I fell in love with that in the old Highlander TV show, but The Lost really nailed it. I'm like, this is perfect, this structure.
Well, the Highlander film did it great as well. I mean, the first one was just so good.
Yeah, it's so
Sean Connery
atmospheric.
as a Spanish guy who doesn't decide to change his accent. He's still Scottish.
He's Sean Connery,
I know. But it's just so great. But I'm not familiar with Stormlight Archive. Is that a book? Or,
Yeah.
It's so funny because I was in Australia with Laura and Travis from Critical Role when the third Stormlight came out. So in my collection, there's one cover that's just from the Australian.
UK,
it's the UK Australian version. And I'm
they
sitting there
stand
just
out.
reading. It was it does. But
all right, your fifth show.
My fifth show is my underrated pick.
Okay.
And it is one of the most underrated sitcoms of all time, and it has one of the best ensemble casts of all time, and it's News Radio.
News Radio is underappreciated.
It absolutely is. It is the Kung Pao of the television world. It is a phenomenally written, acted. The cast was just so good. That is definitely on my list.
Yeah, and Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman is just Phil Hartman, right?
He's just anything he does is fun.
Yeah.
Anything. He's one of those guys where he could sit down and read the phone book, and you'd be laughing by Anderson. So it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Why do you like it? Let's give a pitch for News Radio as we're running out of time right at the end. If people haven't seen that, why should they just go in?
Again, because it is a phenomenal. First of all, it's one of the greatest pilots that's ever been done in television history. It had the best focus of any pilot ever. Dave comes in, he's has a new job, he's so excited, he's the kid from the Midwest, and the first thing his boss says is, great, but to get the job, you've got to fire the guy who used to have your job. It's a brilliant, brilliant way to just bring everybody in, you get to meet all the characters, and again, the acting, the writing, and the ensemble cast is just so good.
Absolutely
That's my
underappreciated. You are not. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the YouTube channel, hanging out with me.
So happy to be here.
We're secretly going out for steaks later tonight.
We are, because you're going to tell me what happens in all the rest of the Stormlight archives, and I'm going to sit there like this the whole time.
But we'll pretend that we're partying forever until we get to be best friends again later.
It'll happen.
Thank you, Will Friedle. Do you have anything you want to promote that people should go check out?
No, there's a bunch of stuff out there, but I'm one of those people. I'm good. I'm totally good. I don't self-promote. Let people find what they want to find and just enjoy yourself and be good to people, and I'll be happy.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. This way. That's right.
Boom.